I've come to Scots in Mayfair for the launch of the 2013 British Champions Series. We'll be talking to the driving force behind BCS, that is of course Sheikh Fahad Al Thani. Also its progress, we will hear from Rod Street, and also Royal Ascot of course, a real international flavour these days. Nick Smith will be giving us the latest on that. First of all though, we're going to speak to Sheikh Fahad. Sheikh Fahad, the British Champions Series is in its third year now. What are the aims of the series?
To attract as much people to racing as possible. I think we've started up to make it easier for new race goers to actually understand racing, and for even older race goers to find it in context. That's what we hope to do.
And you've got a special affection, I know, for the Guineas festivals. You've got two really solid contenders in Havana Gold and Just the Judge this year. Tell us a bit more about those.
Havana Gold's been training very well. Jamie's ridden him a few times and he's quite excited by him. Just the Judge, he has a form in the book to be favourite. So I think our better chance would be Just the Judge.
And this year you've got a new jockey team, Jamie Spencer and Harry Bentley. Trainers, jockeys of different profiles. What was it that drew you to signing up this pair?
I think Jamie is one of the best jockeys in the world, an international jockey. That's why we got him. Harry was a young jockey when he was still claiming when we retained him. And I think we have to support younger jockeys. That's part of every big operations role in the game, to support younger people in it.
Rod, you famously said that the British Champions Series was part of a 5-year plan. You're 2 years into that now. This is the third. How do you feel things are coming along?
I think they're coming along really well. I mean, obviously Frankel came along at the right time. When we launched the series, the opening race was the 2000 Guineas, and Frankel got it off in spectacular style. And for 2 years, we've had a superstar horse, which has really enabled us to gather a lot of momentum around the series and build its profile. So it started perhaps even more brightly than we could have anticipated.
Now obviously Frankel was the star of the first two runnings of Champions Day at Ascot. He's not around this year as its poster boy. What problems does that create, that Frankel is now at stud and the whole thing's got to be done without him?
I think it gives us opportunities really, rather than problems. I think we've got to stand on our own 2 feet now. You can't have superstars around forever. Racing in its history is peppered with a handful, from Nijinsky to Dancing Brave and the like. So it's now all about telling the story of these different categories we race in, from mile to mile and a half, the sprints. There are always stories in racing, there are always new stars coming along, and of course I think the next big chat we're going to get now is who's the next Frankel? Frankel is now the latest yardstick for greatness, and that will help us tell our stories and make comparisons. So there'll be no shortage of us giving chance to tell the storyline to the series.
And what have you learnt so far, and are there any changes that you're thinking of implementing that can improve the British Champions Series?
Well, lots. I think one of the biggest changes is that this year it's all going to be on Channel 4. I think in the last 2 years it's jumped from Channel 4 to BBC and backwards and forwards, so neither channel could really take ownership of the series. This year we're in a really good position. We go from the Guineas to the Lock-ins to the Derby, through Royal Ascot, Yorks, Ledgers, the Champions Day with one broadcaster, and I think we've seen how Channel 4 are really committed to the sport now. They did a great job with their inaugural Grand National meeting. I think the broadcast would be a really, really big deal for it. But there's lots of other things too. Racing has a very diverse audience, so we have to talk to people in different ways. So through social media, through video content, through good old-fashioned racing journalism, there'll be lots of ways that we can tell the Champion Series story this year, and we look forward to it.
Nick, there's always an international flavour to Royal Ascot. Who have you got on the menu for 2013?
Well, obviously, everything starts with Black Caviar. We're still very hopeful that she'll run. It might be slightly odds against, but could be a bit of a toss-up. They could have a very, very lucrative campaign at home, or they could come here and maybe go out with a blaze of glory. So let's hope we see her. And obviously, Animal Kingdom's already here, stabling with David Lanigan at the moment. Really impressive in the Dubai World Cup, and for us, he's probably the most important horse this year, simply because that would break new ground. We've had tons of Australian horses at the very highest level, but we've never really had an absolute superstar from America. So to have that, and of course to also have him in the Queen Anne, would be really something for us.
And any other names you can give us who might be coming over?
Well, Mike de Kock's coming back for the first time in several years, which is good news. So we'll have South African representation. His 2 Dubai World Cup winners, night winners, Shay Shay and Soft Falling Rain, going for the 2 sprints. There's a lovely Japanese horse called a Shin Top, who recently won a Group 2 prep race for their NHK Mile Cup, which is their equivalent of the Guineas. He'll come for the St James's Palace Stakes if all goes well there. And if we don't get Black Caviar, we should get Black Caviar's half-brother, All Too Hard, who's having a tremendous run of things in Australia at the moment. Just had a slight setback and has to come back in a couple of weeks' time in the all-age stakes. But all being well, he'll win that and be on the plane with Shame Express, who is a sprinter in Australia and won the Newmarket. So, we're in pretty good shape, but long way to go.